Today's quick tip video will discuss the process to request housing accommodations for first-year students through the Office of Disability Services. Housing accommodations are for students with documented disabilities that may need accommodations to allow for equal access to the residential experience. To make a request, you must fill out the housing accommodation request form by June 1st. Please note that housing accommodations must be requested each year you plan to live on campus. As part of the request submission, you will need to upload documentation from a provider that supports the need for the request. Documentation guidelines can be found on the Office of Disability Services Student Resources website and navigating to the Documentation Guidelines link on the right-hand bar. Share the disability verification form for housing accommodation requests with your provider and submit the completed form with your request. To get started with your request, navigate back to the Student Resources webpage and scroll to the section on housing accommodations. The very first link in this section is the housing accommodation request form. Click on the hyperlink text to begin. Log into the page using your WPI username and password. Begin entering your information to submit your request. On the bottom of the second page of the form, you will be given the opportunity to upload a file. Please include supporting documentation here. Once you finish and certify the form by entering your initials, click Submit. You will receive a confirmation that the process is complete and your information submitted. Once the deadline has passed, the Housing Accommodation Review Committee will meet to review the requests. The review committee includes members from Residential Services, Health Services, the Student Development and Counseling Center, Dining Services, and the Office of Disability Services. After the committee meets, the Office of Disability Services will notify students of their approved accommodations via WPI email. Then, Residential Services will notify students of their next steps for securing accessible housing locations. Though we will always accept and consider housing accommodation requests, requests that are submitted after the deadline will be based on availability of spaces. If you are approved after the deadline and a space is not available, you will be placed on a waitlist should a space that meets that accommodation need becomes available. Don't forget, you will also need to submit the general housing application through StarRes at www.housing.wpi.edu. Need more help? Contact the Office of Disability Services to schedule an appointment to speak with a staff member.